A while ago, I was driving in my neighborhood, coming from the grocery store, driving up the hill. Then I saw a car driving down the hill, but because that road is narrow and there were cars parked on both sides of that street. So when I saw the car, I pulled on the side, a little bit on the side, so that car driving down the street will go by. I did that, and then we drove up. One of my sons shouted, "Mom, that person didn't even say thank you. They didn't even wave or even looked at you." To which I replied, "Well, that would have been nice, but for me it was the right thing to do, to let that person go. It was the right thing to do." And me and them were talking about how it's important to do the right thing, whether the people appreciate it or not. It's always great if the person appreciate, an act of kindness that you do. It's always great. There's reciprocity there, but it's not always guaranteed, right? So, and I was reflecting on this. I was like, if somebody was to ask me, where are you in your journey? Let's say you're taking a road trip, going somewhere in this journey of life. Somebody was to ask me, where are you, on your journey? I will respond by saying, I am at a spot where I want to please God. I do the right thing because I want to please God. And I want to read to you 2 Bible verses that have affected me, have molded this way of thinking, behaving. And the first one is in 2 Corinthians chapter 5 verse 9, and this is Paul speaking. He says, "Our only goal is to always please the Lord, whether we are living here in this body or there with Him." And I remember reading this, I think in 2021 for the first time, and it didn't leave me. And I remember just being like, wow, that was his only goal, to please God, whether in this life or for eternity. And I remember meditating and just going back to this. And I don't know about you, but for me, I have noticed that if I read the Bible too quickly, it doesn't change my behaviors. There are no roots, and that's why for me, I don't really do the Bible in 1 year, like just going every day one thing and go the next and the next and the next. I'm like, if I do that a year later, I'm the same. Nothing has changed. My behaviors are still the same. But if, as I'm reading, something really, and I go back to it, and sometimes I will, like this year, me and some friends, we did a study on the Gospel of John. And so one of my goals is I'm not going to read anything really much for the rest of the year. We'll be going back to the book of John in my notes, what I wrote down. And so when I was reading this in 2021, I went back so many times to this, chapter, and particularly this, verse. And I remember looking more into Bible verses about pleasing God, and there are so many, and I was like, wow, that's such a thing as pleasing God. And so I have been on this journey of doing the right thing, by my husband, by my children, by the people around me, because I want to please God. And I will read you another Bible verse too. This one is in John chapter 8 verse 29, and this is Jesus speaking. He said, "And he who sent me is with me. He has not left me alone, for I always do the things that are pleasing to him." And I was like, wow, there it is again, Jesus doing the things that are pleasing to God. And just, taking time to dwell on these scriptures have, mold my behaviors. And, going back to the importance of spending time in scriptures, like going back to it. And I remember in my journal where I usually write down, what I feel like the Holy Spirit is telling me. On one side, I wrote down, what do I do to please myself? What are the things that I do to please self? I wrote them down. I feel like you need to know, right? So you can avoid, that. And on the other side, the things that I wrote down to please God, right? Obviously, for me, like doing the right thing, it's another way to please God. Doing what His Word says to do, forgiving others, bear with one another, help one another. So those things, I do those things because, it's the right thing to do. But the root of it, being kind to people, right, being patient with people, is because I want to please God. And I have been set free, really. Like, if, I do something to something kind and the person says thank you, it's good. It always feels good. But I'm always examining my heart, checking, like, if the person doesn't say thank you, for example. I want to keep doing good. I don't want to be discouraged, like, oh, that person didn't say thank you or whatever. And the reason why I'm not discouraged, that I'm not going to stop doing good, is because I want to please God, right? So I've been set free from people pleasing, really. It's like such a shift, such a mind shift that is so liberating. And I pray everybody experiences it. It's freeing. Like I do this or do that because I want to please God, because helping my husband, helping my child, or helping a family member, a friend. It's not because I'm expecting something in return. That is so it's so dangerous to be in that place. It's super dangerous because some people are more grateful than others. The majority are not. But if the motive of my heart was to please God, it really doesn't matter what the person says or not, right? And God has been so faithful, to reward me. There are so many things that I did in the secret. Nobody knew. Nobody knows about it. And I go out of my way not to tell people that, oh, I did that, I did this, I did that. I go out of my way not to tell them, because I'm like, God knows. I can't fool him. He knows the motive of my heart, and he's so faithful. He will reward you openly. He has always. It's almost like a wink, like winking at me, like, you see, you don't need to tell people. Nobody needs to know, right? Look, I'm rewarding you openly. And I remember one of my sons, we did memorize one Bible verse a month. So 1 month one child will have a Bible verse to memorize, and one of them was Psalm 118 verse 8. It was his, but I memorized it too, because every day, hey, you need to read this out loud. And it says, depending on the translation, it says, it is better to trust God than to trust people. And for me, it goes in the same line as it's better to please God than to please people. yeah, it's so freeing. There's so much freedom in that, it's beautiful. I love it. There's just some things that I will do for my spouse, and or don't do certain things I will not do, because I'm like, that's the right thing. I'm not gonna flirt with other men. That's just wrong. So I will do the right thing. And beyond, there are things that I do for my husband that there's no reciprocity in that particular sense. He does other things, and I'm like, no, it's because it's the right thing to do, and ultimately I want to please God, right? He's the one who rewards me. He's the one who sees even when nobody sees it. And I just love where I am in this journey, and I invite everybody to come on. It's liberating, it's freedom. I tell you, like, what people's praises, approval, or whatnot, we're human beings, right? But there's a level of freedom that I'm experiencing, and I want to stay there, in on this spot where the motive of what I do, the motives of what I say, is because I want to do the right thing, and ultimately I want to please God. So this is the podcast for today. Enjoy your summer, and make it a goal, a priority to do the right thing because you want to please God. God bless you. Bye.